Tonight we'll show you how they're taking stuff out of context, why both sides are plagued by bad optics, why you can't always trust the polls. And in Judge Merissa, we'll debate whether politicians have a right to be stupid.
It's also why lawmakers say and do silly things in troubled times, like focusing extensive debate on truck nuts.
Objection, offensive, Your Honor.
What are truck nuts?
Objection, don't ask, Your Honor.
This is Money, Power, and Politics. Okay, we'll start with a note to Hillary Clinton, once again about optics.
I know how many people, family members, loved ones, and friends are still grieving.
When you stump in the Orlando area, you may not want the father of the Pulse nightclub killer sitting right behind you. The Clinton campaign said he was not invited as a guest and that the campaign was unaware of his attendance until after the fact. But maybe they should pay more attention to who gets prime seating in front of the national cameras at her events. I asked if the campaign had been aware of this man's attendance, would it have denied him this seat? We did not get a response on that. Now, a note from Mr. Trump on the subject of optics. When more and more Republicans are rejecting you, from the 50 national security leaders under Republican administrations who say that you're dangerous, to Republican Senators Graham, Flake, and Heller, who have raised strong concerns about you, to now Republican Senators Sass, Kirk, and Collins, who say they will not vote for you, you may not want to try to dig out of a hole by blatantly misquoting your opponent.
She accidentally told the truth and said that she wanted to raise taxes on the middle class.
No, she didn't. According to the transcript, she said we aren't going to raise taxes on the middle class, but she sent out a video with a different subtitle to make it look as if she said just the opposite.
I'm telling you right now, we're going to write fairer rules for the middle class, and we are going to raise taxes on the middle class.
Yeah, that's an old Ted Cruz trick. Remember how he wanted us to believe Marco Rubio walked up to Cruz's dad, trashed the Bible with cameras rolling, and then just walked away?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the old Ted Cruz bad subtitle trick. He really said, Marco Rubio, you'll find the answers in there. Yeah, we can do that too, you know, and make Trump or Cruz say all kind of stuff.
Stop cutting deals with our freedoms.
And speaking of all kinds of stuff, we also have a note about the stuff going around on Facebook and Twitter. For example, this picture is making the rounds with captions like shock photo suggesting Hillary Clinton is too weak to even walk up some stairs. Once again, that's out of context. That photo was taken 6 months ago when she slipped on a step and her aides reached over to help her out. Yes, Hillary Clinton has slipped a time or two. And I remember when she had a little mishap with some flags.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Good to see you.
Oh, no.
But a lot of politicians have missed a step or two along the way. President Obama slipped here in Tampa and he bonked his head on the chopper, while President Bush bonked his head the same way, then managed to do it again. Michelle Obama bonked her head. Of course, don't get us started on Gerald Ford. He'd fall down and go down, then get up and fall up. And then there's Bush's little bowling mishap, Bob Dole misjudging the force of gravity. And then beyond politics, you've got Dopey there. Nice save. And we can't forget about Destiny's Child. So the point is, don't read too much into this one photo taken 6 months ago, especially when she could have just been startled by Howard Dean. Yeah, we see all kinds of silly stuff on social media, and some would say stupid stuff, which fires up a lot of people, especially in this campaign season. You could say that it's all too much, or you could say we have a right to be stupid. And that's the subject of tonight's Judge Merissa. If you missed the debut last week, we take political arguments to court and get into character and ad-lib with Merissa and Charley. We have some fun with this, but also work in some serious points along the way. So without further ado, here's tonight's argument on Judge Merissa.
In America, you have a right to be stupid.
Is Secretary of State John Kerry serious? Do Americans have a right to be stupid? That's up for debate in our court. You are entering the courtroom of Judge Merissa Lynn. Real issues, real political arguments, settled here in our forum. This is Judge Merissa.
So, Mr. Patrick, the fact that you brought this case into my courtroom, is that not an act of stupidity in itself?
Well, Your Honor, I would argue that this is a good debate to have even if you render a stupid verdict.
I don't render stupid verdicts. Say that again, and I'll find you in contempt.
No, I meant to say that if you render an intelligent verdict affirming the right of all Americans to be stupid.
That's more like it. Okay, Mr. Belcher, what is this all about?
I'd like to play Exhibit A.
In America, you have a right to be stupid.
Secretary of State Kerry says that stupidity is a basic American right, and we disagree.
Yeah, and he's on the side of stupid?
Yes.
Objection, speculation. The Secretary was making a broader point that does apply to our core rights as Americans.
Sustained, what is the point?
Well, he was saying that as Americans that we live and breathe the idea of political freedom. Whatever the point of view may be, even if the point of view is overwhelmingly stupid to most Americans.
Mr. Belcher, is that what he said?
The Founding Fathers recognized 3 key rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Did I ask you about the Founding Fathers?
No, Your Honor.
Stay on point.
The point is, the Founding Fathers omitted stupidity for a reason.
Objection, lack of foundation. In the preamble to the U.S. Constitution, our Founding Fathers called for a more perfect union.
Your point?
You can't make something more perfect. That's stupid in itself.
Objection. He's making sense.
Sustained.
I'd like to play Exhibit B. This, Your Honor, will show you how our right to be stupid also ignites us as a people. It expands our reach and drives our thirst for change. It inspires invention and ingenuity and leads to new and creative ways of doing things.
Okay. We will concede that a certain degree of stupidity may be wired into our government. I think we can all agree with that. It appears to have driven our energy policy for the past 100 years. Play Exhibit C.
We need an energy bill that encourages consumption.
Yeah, but play Exhibit D. It's also why our definition of an exit strategy can involve misspelling every word on an exit sign but exit. It's also why Americans can also say no to the pubic option.
What?
Show Exhibit E. Yeah, pubic option. And it's why we can reject sockalism and acknowledge our hotness without the use of apostrophes. And in state government, it's also why lawmakers say and do silly things in troubled times, like focusing extensive debate on truck nuts.
Objection, offensive, Your Honor.
What are truck nuts?
Objection, don't ask, Your Honor.
Play Exhibit F. It's the big debate that played out in the Florida legislature a while back.
I mean, nuts like washers and screws, or?
No, more nuts like, nuts.
I warned you not to ask, Your Honor. Stupidity is not something to celebrate. Believe me, I know. People in Europe are already saying that stupid defines us as Americans. Play Exhibit G.
We go over to Europe, and all we can say is de cinco de cuatro.
People in Europe don't even know what it means to be the fifth of 4.
But Kerry was not talking about stupidity in government.
No, but he certainly could have. Play Exhibit H.
I actually did vote for the $87 billion before I voted against it.
But in this case, he was referring to the stupid things that regular people say and do because they're free to do it. He says that's a virtue worth fighting for.
Mr. Belcher, what say you?
I concede stupidity is occasionally even fun. So, rule, Your Honor.
Mr. Patrick, you take this one as well.
And now it's your turn to render a verdict. Find and like our Facebook page. That's Fox 13's Craig Patrick on Facebook. Do you agree with the judge's decision? Cast your vote as a member of our jury. Coming up, the trouble with polls. We'll introduce Mike Flannery, who's all fired up. So Hillary Clinton is leading Donald Trump in an average of national polls, but some of those polls may be way off base, in part because a lot of people these days don't like to answer their phones, like John McCain. We're calling John McCain now to work into a discussion on polling.
It isn't just Iraq.
Hello?
Certainly Iraq is part of it, but it's not just Iraq.
Hello?
It is certainly other parts.
Yeah, McCain doesn't take our calls when he's on the floor for some reason. Plus, more people are cutting their landlines, and most of the pollsters depend on robocalls, which by law can't reach cell phones. It's led to declining response rates and, for some, a higher rate of error.
It's been a bad night for the pollsters.
Last year, the pollsters missed badly in Great Britain and Greece and Israel. Back in 2012, Mitt Romney was dancing in the streets because the Gallup polling suggested he would win.
Man, you definitely got Romnesia.
So to help make sense of the polls, we have a new contributor on our show. Mike Flannery is the political editor at our sister station in Chicago, and he's covered politics for decades. We shared the same workspace together in Cleveland and Philly during the conventions. I loved watching him work there, so I asked him to get fired up for us here in Tampa Bay. So tonight, we're talking polls with Flannery Fired Up.
Some folks love voter opinion polls. Some hate them. As I've learned while covering lots of elections, some folks are in both camps, depending on how well their candidate is doing in those surveys. For much of the last year, Donald Trump loved the polls, quoted them all the time, as they documented his rise and his surprising success en route to winning the Republican nomination for president. This past week, though, not so much. In addition to a Fox News survey that found Hillary Clinton with a national lead over Trump of 49% to 39%, surveys showed similar numbers in key swing states. In Trump's must-win Pennsylvania, 49% to 38%. In Florida, 48% to 42%. In Michigan, 41% to 32%. New Hampshire, tied a few weeks ago, is now a blowout. Hillary Clinton at 47%. Trump just 32%. When I reported on these and other surveys that had bad news for Trump, some of his supporters, who I'm always eager to hear from, really let me have it on social media. Mary Vollmer's one. She wrote, "I wouldn't call Flannery a journalist anymore. He's trying to be a spin doctor. Is he getting paid by somebody for this? I know I wouldn't do it for free." Sandy Pfaff added, "You are the crazy one, Mike Flannery. People aren't buying it anymore. The polls are lies. We know this. Go to a Trump rally. See for yourself what real Americans think." Sandy offered a link to a, quote, honest poll, apparently done by 13 people who claim they called thousands of Americans in every state. They found Trump at 67%, Hillary Clinton with a measly 19%. Now, that posting did not tell who conducted the alleged survey, but if the outcome in November is even remotely close to those numbers, I hereby predict a lot of people will try to find those guys. Look, polls don't predict anything. They're just a snapshot of voter opinion at one point in time. Hillary Clinton's ahead right now, but there's no guarantee she'll win the White House in November. She and top Democrats know that. And they know Donald Trump may yet have more surprises in store for all of us. I'm political editor Mike Flannery.
Thanks, Mike. And by the way, you can check out his Facebook page. Search for Mike Flannery, Fox Chicago. And just so you know, the experts don't rely on poll numbers this far out. They use the polls to track movement, and the movement is currently favoring Hillary Clinton. And here's what we're seeing right now in the state of Florida. In an average of Florida state polls, Hillary Clinton pulled ahead 6 days ago. Trump held a slight lead, a fraction of 1%, through the conventions. But now Clinton is up, and today's Quinnipiac poll gives her, again, a very slight 1-point lead, 46 to 45%. But we should get a very good temperature check on this on Thursday. Matt Towery is our pollster for Fox 13, and so far, he and his son have nailed it this year. Bloomberg ranked Matt and Matthew Towery in the polls they've done for us among the most accurate in the nation. They scored an accuracy rating of 91%. And again, they're polling for us here in Florida as we speak, and Matt will join us on Thursday night with the results.
Coming up, we'll show you why Donald Trump could lose Utah and Arizona, and how Clinton could lose Wisconsin and shake up the mat, blow out expectations, and deliver some very unexpected results.
Well, the assumptions about red states and blue states may be way off this year because Trump and Clinton can flip some states you may not expect. Check out, for example, Utah. It's about as Republican as you can get. Romney won this state by 48 points. But a poll this month shows Clinton closing the gap to just 12 points. And with former Republican Policy Director Evan McMullin now running as a conservative alternative and a Utah native, that could siphon more votes away from Trump and burn Trump in Utah. Same goes for Arizona. Meanwhile, you have Democratic blue states like Pennsylvania and Wisconsin that could flip and go Republican. And tonight we'll focus on the changes at work right now in Wisconsin and perspective from Mike Tobin.
Always a battleground state, there is a very real possibility that the Badger State could go for the grand old party for the first time since Ronald Reagan rolled through.
Shame!
They have the Democrats to thank for it. The demonstrations and attempt at recalling the Republican governor galvanized Wisconsin conservatives. The multiple elections of Governor Scott Walker forced leadership to keep the machine well-oiled.
There is a Republican machine. They're very cohesive. They really follow the lead of the leaders and the signals they get of who to vote for.
But there is a problem, and the problem is the candidate. Conservatives in Wisconsin motivated in the primary for Ted Cruz, not Donald Trump.
And in fact, that's why he lost so terribly in the primary. I mean, you know, even the right-wing radio show, talk show hosts still continue to go after him.
You're listening to News Radio 620 WTMJ. I'm Charlie Sykes.
Very influential in Wisconsin, conservative talk radio is still not warming to Trump, even in light of Hillary Clinton, largely because he attacked Governor Walker and therefore attacked the base that supported Walker 3 times.
I think it's going to be very hard for him to turn the state around and get momentum and popularity, even against Hillary Clinton.
Well, each night this week, we're drilling into the map and showing how it's shifting as we speak and why we have some new battleground states like Georgia in play. And we'll take you through more changes on our YouTube channel. Search for Craig Patrick's Money, Power, and Politics. Click subscribe at the top of the page and watch extended interviews, humor segments, and get caught up on prior shows you may have missed.
Coming up, we'll show you how the headlines will play out tomorrow and why we could see some very interesting changes this year in the presidential debate.
Okay, let's start with good news maybe in the making for Libertarian presidential candidate Gary Johnson, because the Nonpartisan Commission on Presidential Debates says to the planners of the debates, prepare for a third lectern with the possibility that Gary Johnson could be part of the national debates because there's a 15% polling threshold. And while Johnson is closing in on that in some polls in double digits, there is a good possibility he could be included. And with that, boy, he could make some big gains starting in late September. Bad news, meanwhile, for Debbie Wasserman Schultz, because you have Bernie Sanders still on her case, raising money on behalf of her primary challenger, Tim Canova. This is a key race to watch in Florida and all across the nation. Of course, the primary is at the end of this month. In terms of headlines tomorrow, I think it will be once again all about Donald Trump with some off-the-cuff remarks he made yet again, this time about the Second Amendment. What did he mean by that? How does he explain it? Was it taken out of context? All of these questions will come up surely for Donald Trump tomorrow, and how he addresses them could be a turning point for Donald Trump yet again. Charley LaDuff joins us tomorrow night, as does Scott Smith. Thank you for joining us. We will see you again tomorrow night at 11:30 for Money, Power, Politics.